Okay, let's continue with Chapter 5. We're going to focus a little closer on the House of Representatives and how this reapportionment, redistricting thing works. Don't really have to think about this with the Senate because each senator represents the whole state. So it's not like we're trying to figure out which part they represent. So whenever one of them comes up for re-election, every citizen in the whole state votes for that senator. Now, in the House of Representatives, it's different. When you live in a state where there's only one representative, sort of like North Dakota, everybody in the whole state votes for that one representative. But in California, we have 53 members. Each area, each district, those voters are the only ones who vote for that member. And so you're going to see a lot of variance within a state in terms of who they vote for. You gotta understand, there is a geographical concept to all this. Politics, a lot of this is all local. And as long as you please your local constituents, the people in your district, you'll keep winning re-election. And so that's one of the things we need to understand when we're looking at our government and why it doesn't accomplish much. Most people are happy with their representative. They may not be happy with the whole system, but they're happy with their representative because their representative is representing what they want. Okay, so every 10 years we do a census, and that's population shifts are changing. If it weren't for immigration, America's population would be going down. But that also being said, we're seeing a lot of people leaving the north, east, and moving to the south and west. And we'll see this on a map here in just a second. So when we do the count and we realize, wow, these states have lost a lot of people, these states have gained a lot of people, then we do something called reapportion, where we actually change the number of representatives for each state. And so once a state does find out how many they have, then they're going to go about, okay, where do we draw the lines for those districts? Okay, so that process of redistricting happens within the state, and it's the state government that's in charge of that process. So, the party in power in that state is going to have a large say in the way those lines are drawn, and they're going to draw lines that benefit that party. That's just the nature of how things work. When you're in charge, or when you have power, you're going to do what's best for your interests. Okay, so basically, we need the districts to be relatively compact, and we also need them to have about the same number of voters per district. Now, that being said, you're still going to get some really odd, weird-shaped districts. And it's because you're trying to draw lines to give an advantage. So it is actually illegal to do something called gerrymandering, okay, illegally drawn lines to give an advantage to a political party. It still happens. But proving it in court is a very difficult thing. And the courts have actually upheld the concept that certain districts, certain minority groups should be given a certain number of districts just to have some representation in a state. So there are different strategies that are used for gerrymandering. One is called packing, and what you try to do is you gather all of your opposition. This is actually very strong in states where you have a lot of different districts. So packing works. You gather all your opposition voters, your opposition parties, and you put them all in one district. So you give them one district, but then you have all the others. Cracking would be another strategy where you put a small number of opposition party members among many districts. You just draw those lines and chop out a little bit each place. And that is one way to ensure that they are a small minority. And theoretically, you can win every district if you did it that way. Okay, so here is our last census and the apportionment that happened as a result. Look at the states in green. Those are the states that have lost population or a percentage of our population. And so when you look at those, New York and Ohio both lost 2 seats. Okay, Iowa, Missouri, Illinois, Pennsylvania, Michigan, those states all, and Louisiana all lost 1 seat in the House. The blue states are states where population is increasing, or the percentage of the population is increasing. Okay, so obviously Texas had the biggest change. They gained a full 4 seats. It's amazing. But again, if you notice California, we are the largest. We have 53. We just have a lot of people in California, not only due to people moving in, but also to immigration. Now, California recently, within maybe the last 5 or 6 years, not really seeing a lot of people moving into the state. Still have a lot coming in through immigration, but population growth and then growth from other states has really dropped. What we're seeing in California is the cost of living is so high that lots of native Californians are moving into the adjoining states like Oregon, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, Washington. And so we'll see a lot of Californians in those states. But again, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, they're also getting a lot of people from the Northeast. All right. So California, there was no change, 53 districts. And so these are the district lines. Notice the relative size. They're all very different sizes. Remember, the whole idea is to try to get the same number of constituents. So in places where there's very few people, like northeastern California, there's not a lot of people that live out there. Or District 8 out there in Death Valley, not a lot of people live out there. So you need a much larger district area to get the same number of people. You look at all the districts just within the city of Los Angeles. It's amazing. You've got a lot of people divided into many, many districts. Here we can see San Diego, and particularly Spring Valley. Spring Valley is interesting. It kind of is a part of the 53rd District, currently represented by Susan Davis. So if you live in Spring Valley or Lemon Grove, you can see Lemon Grove also is a part of her district. But if you live in San Diego, once you get out of Lemon Grove, you're now in somebody else's district. That's District 51 with somebody else. And so, but notice how it kind of loops around, into, Bonita, La Presa, but also flows into El Cajon and La Mesa. And again, we see how the idea is you're trying to group a relatively similar voter population into a district to get similar voting styles. Here's the current, again, here's Barbara Boxer, Dianne Feinstein. These are our 2 California senators. Current makeup of Congress. We have 53 Democrats, 45 Republicans, 2 independents. Okay. Notice how it says they caucus with Democrats. That means that for the most part they tend to vote Democratic. They're not aligned with the Democratic Party, but they tend to work with the Democratic Party. Most of their voting record would probably connect with them. On the House of Representatives, there again is Susan Davis, your representative if you live in Spring Valley or Lemon Grove, 53rd District. Notice how the Republicans hold a larger portion of the House of Representatives, so that gives them power, whereas in the Senate, you see how the Democratic Party has more power. Okay, so we have the 6 non-voting members. Remember, that's places like Puerto Rico and Virgin Islands and Guam and things like that. And then that's the idea with those things. On a local level, this has nothing to do with the United States Congress. Just people keep asking me about this. Spring Valley is not a city. And so usually you would have a city council and then elected by people, and then you would also have a mayor that would be like a chief executive. Well, since Spring Valley isn't really a city, all of the city functions, things like parks, roads, bridges, fire department, police department, those types of things are usually done at the city level. So Spring Valley, those types of things are done by the County Board of Supervisors. And Diane Jacob is the District 2 supervisor, and she represents Spring Valley and Lemon Grove and things like that. So this is just local politics. So you can get a sense like this. You know, sometimes you'll see a person like this later run for the House of Representatives or California Senate or maybe the U.S. Senate later down the road.